But yeah, so I could go on and on and on, just so many different stories. But maybe let's move to some more kind of more momentous occasions. Like, what was maybe your best ministry moment?
Probably the first time I preached at the Salvation Army.
First time you preached at the Salvation Army?
Yeah, so we're doing this Pastors Academy thing, and I'm watching everybody being plucked up into ministry. I watched you go off into ministry, and here I thought I was like a special deal, you know. I thought I was like the best speaker
Blue hair boy
in class, and everybody's getting a church job somewhere except for me. And I just remember being so dejected, thinking maybe this is not what God wants me to do. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And so I remember driving to work one day and just praying to God, like, God, if this is, like, if you want me to do this, like, just show me something, give me something. Mm-hmm. And so that day's over. I'm driving back home from work, and I get a phone call from Josh saying, we need somebody to preach tonight at the Salvation Army. And I've got nothing prepared.
I've gotten many of those phone calls.
But I was like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what God wants me to do. And so I've got nothing prepared. I don't even have my Bible. I've got my King James Bible of Shame in the trunk, you know. And so I grabbed that Bible. I've got no outline. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I get up there at the Salvation Army and I preach, and it's a wreck. Like, the whole sermon, it's disastrous. It's the worst that I ever spoke to anything. It's the worst time I ever spoke, period. And the guys at the Salvation Army gave me like a standing ovation when I was done. That's what I love about preaching there, is the guys are so, like, they're so hungry for Bible that they're like on the edge of their seats. They're either on the edge of their sleep or they're sleeping because they've had a long day. They've had a long day. But I had so many people like tuned into me, just like absolutely sucking at preaching. And this, so many guys came up afterwards and asked me questions, and I didn't have my Bible with all my notes in it. So everything's just literally falling apart right in front of me. And this guy asked me a question, and I fumbled through it. And Tiffany was there, and she was the one who had requested that I speak. And we led a guy to Jesus.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then she had told me
that's way awesome.
She told me a week later that guy got saved off my sermon. And to me, that was God showing me, like, hey, punk, like, I'm going to use you, but on my terms and in my way. And it's not going to be because you're an awesome speaker. It's not going to be because of how good you are or how cool you are. I'm going to use you because you're going to glorify me. And to me, that was like the moment, like another like burst of energy, I guess, to keep going.
I guess my best ministry moment, one of the things that we did in Flint, and it was truly incredible, was we used to go all over where the church was located, and even to some neighborhoods that weren't by the church, and we would pick up kids for a kids program. And I remember at one point, this was crazy, we had 43 kids in our auditorium, and all of my volunteers couldn't make it that day. So there was 43 kids that I picked up on a bus, and 3 adults, counting myself, that were running the show. And it was a madhouse because one kid's screaming and crying because he misses his mom. So then I'm down to 2 volunteers.
See, that alone makes me glad that I did not get that job. Like that's one of the things I'm talking about. Like, I would not have been equipped. Like, I was bitter about not getting a church job. I would have hated that. I would have hated that so much. I probably would have quit right there.
It was super frustrating. Like, just straight up frustrating. But at the same time, there would be weeks I get to stand up in front of 20 kids, 43 kids, however many, and I would preach Jesus to them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or I would preach an Old Testament story and somehow connect it to Jesus, and it was I'm not even the greatest preacher to kids. Like, I'm not a great preacher at all. But, like, especially to kids, I just fumble over words because I want to use these big theological terms. And I can't do that for kids. It's like, what's sanctification? What's predestination? That sounds fun. Yeah, I don't think I've ever said that. On another episode, we'll talk about it. But through all of that, I think it was after a year or so, I met this kid, and his name was Cordell. And he started asking some really good questions. And he's like 8 years old. And I don't know if it was something that I preached or somebody else started preaching, but he started acting like a new person. He wasn't the same anymore. And our old children's director told me, he's like, I think Cordell's saved. I think he's given his life to Jesus. And after asking him some questions, like, it was definitely like, you're saved, dude. You believe in Jesus. You believe in what he did for you. That's
awesome.
And I had the opportunity to baptize him. And he was the only kid we baptized from our Saturday Kids program. But all the stress, all the running around, handing out flyers, all the just craziness of having 43 kids and only 3 adult volunteers, that moment was all worth it. Yeah. Actually, his mom got baptized as well. She came and got baptized that Sunday. So that was cool. It was so funny, too, because when we brought the baptismal in for the kids to look at, they were all like, you guys got a jacuzzi in your church? Yeah. We're like, kind of.
Yeah, yes, we do.
So
it's probably a Pokestop, too, right?
It maybe is. I haven't gone down to the building yet to see if it is or not, but maybe it is.
All right. Let's talk about, if you want to. So you're sharing all your ministry in Flint and the highs and the lows of it. And we got a blog on our website right now.
Yeah.
And we started. You lost your position.
Yeah, I'm currently not employed by the church.
Yeah. So do you want to walk us through any of that?
We'll do it real quick.
Okay.
Because I know we're coming up. We're coming up on our time.
Yeah, we don't want to go too long here. Alex doesn't want to talk about anything real. Huh?
No, what?
I'm just playing.
So there was I worked at a church for a year and a half, and I honestly thought, like, this is the dream job, and it was almost kind of like a bragging right, because I had thought for the longest time that I was called to ministry, and even the way I got hired was incredible. I didn't even hand anybody a resume. They just said, do you want this job? And I was like, yes, I think this is what God is calling me to. I remember feeling very just unsettled at where I was at my job at the wood shop. And I said, God, whatever you want me to do next, I'm going to do it. And literally the next day, Pastor Josh calls me and says, come into my office on Friday. I want to talk to you about something. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be about. Hopefully I'm not getting excommunicated for having long hair or
blue
anything.
Hair.
Or blue hair.
Just saying.
That happens too, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And so I go into his office, and he has the rest of the church staff come in, and he says, I want to offer you a full-time position at our Flint location. I was like, what? God, that was fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been praying about it, and I've been really feeling unsettled where I'm at, and I honestly told God, wherever he wants me next, whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it. And I thought, that's it. So May 2013, I hired on at the church, and a year and a half later, it was a crazy, awesome ride. My wife and I grew so much.
You moved to Flint.
Yeah, we moved to Flint. We left.
Nobody's doing that right now.
I mean, there's people doing that.
Yeah.
You just don't hear about it.
No, not at all. That's what I'm saying. You don't hear about it at all.
They are the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
People who have nothing in common with people from Flint. Some of them never even lived in an urban setting like myself. And saying,
you didn't.
We're going to move to Flint, and we want to see Jesus move in this city.
Yeah, you were willing to step out there on faith and just go for it.
Well, honestly, when we were looking for houses, I didn't want to live in Flint because I didn't want to live in an urban environment.
I wanted you to move across the street from me.
I remember that. Our kids could have had squirt gun fights. It would have been awesome to play Pokemon. We're talking about that too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally somebody kind of told us, like, if you want to be legit, you got to buy a house in Flint.
I think that was somebody with me.
Maybe, I don't remember.
David Platt. You got to be radical, Alex.
Oh, gosh. Radical church. Yeah. Radical moving.
There you go. Yeah.
So, yeah, we bought a house in Flint, and it was funny. Somebody came up to me at the church, and he was like, I didn't think you were serious until you bought a house in Flint. I was like, well, I'm here. I got a mortgage. I'm kind of stuck here for a while.
Yeah.
And
excellent water.
And, yeah, our water's great. Actually, our water is great.
Yeah, I think you are in a good zone. I was not being sarcastic.
Our water, thankfully, with having a new baby, our water is fine. But there's still a lot of people that don't have water. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so after about a year and a half of going through the ups and downs of ministry and learning so much and really growing in my faith, I came to a point where the church was really hurting for money. And we all sat in a staff meeting, and Josh had said, listen, we're going to start 2015 losing some of you. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I even thought for a second I was maybe safe because I was the only one location staff member for the Flint location. So I'm like, maybe they won't fire me. Lay me off because I'm the only guy in Flint. If they let me go, there's not going to be anybody there. And I did get let go.
Yeah.
And I remember Josh and I are sitting in his office crying because he said, I want to keep you. I don't want you to go. He even said, like, you've grown so much. And at that point, I was ready for 2015 to happen. I was ready for our Christmas gathering, and then after that, just starting 2015 off right, and really feeling like I had learned a lot the past year and a half, and I didn't get to do any of the things I wanted to do. And that was hard. There was a little bit of bitterness, but then at the same time, after I got laid off, I said, well, just because I don't work for the church anymore doesn't mean I still can't be a part of this community. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to keep going here. I mean, the church is still 5 minutes down the road from my house. Why would I go to a different church? And so I stuck it out, and I went there, and it was a year after that point. And I did I wrote this in the blog, I did a lot of my duties that I used to do as on staff, but as a volunteer.
Yeah. And
that was crazy. That put a lot of strain on my marriage, and my wife had just found out she was pregnant. So I had to scale back a little bit. But about a year later, I had another meeting with Pastor Josh, and he said, listen, I really feel like it's time to do something with Flint, and I think what the Holy Spirit is leading me to do is to hand the ministry over to someone else. And
so it's like another shot, because you stayed with the church.
I had honestly been praying about it because they were trying to find, the church had kind of reestablished their budget a little bit, and there was some room in the budget to hire some more staff. And I was honestly thinking, like, I'm going to get my church job back.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome. I'm going to return back to ministry like a conquering hero. I'm going to be like, you guys got rid of me, but I'm not going anywhere. And that didn't happen. What had happened was Josh had said, I really feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me to give this ministry over to this other man.
Yeah.
And the church isn't going to meet here anymore. And I remember it was at that point, I think a little bit of the bitterness and the hurt finally hit me from even getting laid off. Because it was kind of like there was like no time to hurt. And
you kind of buried it.
I buried it because it was like, well, the church is still going. And actually at that point, the church was growing. We were about 70. We were a church plant in Flint with 70 people.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome. It's like, well, we're still growing. We're still doing stuff. We still have the kids program. Kids are still hearing the gospel. Like, let's just keep doing this. So there wasn't a time to kind of sit back and reflect. We just had to keep going. And it wasn't until the doors closed and we locked the doors.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, it's over now here. And what was supposed to happen was our church that was meeting in Flint was supposed to kind of mesh together with this new ministry under this new pastor. And it was like, well, we're going to be all one big happy family again, just with a different pastor. And it was a pastor who was a good man, and he's still in Flint right now doing a lot of great things. has a church plant in downtown Flint right now, and that didn't happen. The church didn't. All of our community that we had, all the people that were going there, they all scattered.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing, to see all those people scattered, because we had been together for 2 years, some of us a little bit more, doing ministry together, seeing Jesus do all these amazing things. And it's like, well, let's just go to this new place. And that didn't happen. And I think that was another thing that just really shook me to the core. Like, oh, now all my family, essentially, my church family, is not what it is now.
Yeah.
It's gone. And so that's why I wrote that blog, and actually writing the blog really helped me kind of put some ideas down on paper and really help the healing process. I mean, I've been in the healing process, and for those of you wondering, I am going to church. I haven't not.
I only posted part 1 of that blog.
Yeah, so there is a
you've
happy
given
ending.
up.
There is a happy ending at the
Yeah.
end, when I write part 2. But there's a long time, and my wife had to kind of call me out of it. It was like, we'd be laying in bed and our alarms would go off, and I'd look over at her and I'd say, I don't think we need to go to church today. And I'd be fine with it if we just stayed home.
Yeah.
And that's a really dangerous place to be.
That is, yeah. So I mean, it almost sounds like the church is the bad guy at this point, but it genuinely, the right decision was made in handing the ministry
so
over.
I don't want to say that Pastor Josh or
You
any
just
of
happened to take a shot to the nuts in the process.
I was not wearing my cup.
No, you weren't wearing your cup.
Yeah, so no, I don't. And actually, for anybody listening, I'm not bitter at Josh or any of the leadership that made the decision, because something had to happen, and that was just what had happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, 5 years from now, I'll probably look back at this moment and say, "Wow, God used that for something awesome."
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think you are the conquering hero.
no,
Yes.
I am not.
Yeah.
Don't make me out to be some Jesus
I do think
freak.
you are, because like I know in my heart, like if it just me, I would have ran. Like I would have been so mad.
You had already been hurt before.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That would have been second strike,
It might have been second strike.
second or third strike, and you're
Yeah.
out, buddy.
Well, here's the thing: is what I want to get to today is like we're gonna take some strikes in ministry.
We already have.
We've taken some strikes, and we're probably gonna take some more. But
There's a part of me, though, that I'll take a strike again. And part of my healing process has been meeting with other pastors and mentors and literally studying the Bible and seeing the church is so important, and that the church is Christ's body, the church is Christ's bride, that we're all going to be together at the final wedding supper of the Lamb, all sitting together at this big table with Jesus.
you're getting super spiritual.
I'm getting really spiritual. And let me say another.
You are.
We're going to be
Let's
able
throw
to
some
drink
Bible
wine.
verses. Yeah.
Oh,
no.
with no shame.
Oh no.
I went there
With no shame.
with no shame.
Way to open that can of worms.
And not
Alex,
be able
on
to
the
get
first
drunk.
episode.
You're not going to be able to get
On
drunk
the
in
first
heaven.
episode.
And yeah, I'll go there. I'll take some strikes already. But yeah, the church is so important, and
But you took a hit.
you took a hit.
I took a hit. But we kept going. It would have been easy for you to say, "Screw it. Church is done for me." It would have been
I
easy
was
for
almost
me,
to that
yeah.
point.
It would have been easy for me to say, "Screw it. Enough of this. I've invested too much time and money, and
just
none of
gonna
this
be-
makes none of what we're doing makes any logical sense if you think about it."
Yeah, why would you want to be at a job where people are not going to like you, where people are going to hurt you repeatedly, and if you do get a paid position, it's not going to be very much,
Yeah.
unless you're like Joel Osteen and you get paid like
yeah.
$1 million.
That's what we're all striving to be, though.
I mean, it would be nice to get paid $1 million to preach a bunch of garbage on Sunday, but
Another can of worms.
what?
Nah, you just opened up another can.
What? Okay, well,
That's strike 3.
that's strike 3. We're going to be getting some calls from his public relations people.
Yeah.
He's got some good tweets, I guess.
Yeah, so I met with a pastor the other day for lunch, and he said something along these lines. He's like, the dentist that I go to, was using the anesthesia to put people under, and while they were down, he was raping them.
What?
So
I didn't know we were going to get this dark on our podcast.
So he goes, so I quit going to him. In fact, I quit going to all dentists. In fact, I quit brushing my teeth. No more. And that's how ridiculous it sounds because of one hurt experience, or maybe a couple of hurt experiences, that we just, because it's church, we just couch everything under it and say, you know what, I got hurt, screw it, I'm done. And it'd be like the same thing saying to that dentist, like, yeah, I'm never brushing my teeth again. Dentists are bad people. You know what? There are some bad churches out there. Mm-hmm. There are some bad people in leadership at churches. But that doesn't mean that God's not working and moving. I think you and I are a walking testimony to that. Like, he's using us. I don't know what he's got in store for me. I can tell you at this point, I do not plan on being a pastor and working a church job per se.
I don't know if I want a church job
I want to go bivocational all the way.
I got to that point. I finally got over the fact that, you know what, being called to ministry looks like having a church job. I'm over that now.
Yeah.
It looks like being bivocational looks like just being a volunteer. And I'm okay with that now.
Yeah, and honestly, like, the way church is going in our country, that might be what our position looks like in the future anyway. The church might disintegrate into small house churches, which, you know, part of me would be like, that would be incredibly sad, but the other part's like incredibly excited because
the idea of community would be so much more solidified.
Yes. Yeah, and the need, and I think the Bible would come to life, like, for people. And I think it would speak to people being persecuted. I know so many people think, well, the church is persecuted. The church is not persecuted right now.
It's not.
No, we are not.
Especially in America, it is not.
No, not even close.
The only persecution we face is when we run out of toilet paper in the church stall. That's the only persecution.
You know, I did, before we started, I took a dump in the women's bathroom in this church building.
Not because you identify as a woman, but because you're lazy.
Yeah, I just want to go on record. Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not walking down in this creepy basement to take a dump, because that's when the bad stuff happens. And two, the toilet paper here sucks. I'm just going to throw that out there. So
I feel bad for the people that use this bathroom.
Yeah, it's
pray.
Really
we
bad.
should pray for them.
Yeah. All right, so we went a lot longer than I kind of anticipated for our first episode. Maybe people are still listening. Probably not.
If you listen to the first 30 seconds, it counts as a listen for us. So if you want to give us at least 30 seconds, we would be so grateful.
Yeah, but at this point, they're like an hour in. So,
oops.
Yeah, maybe we need
my
to put
mom
that
will
up
listen
front.
to it.
Yeah.
My dad will listen to it.
Yeah, my dad will listen to it too. Yeah, so basically what we need from everybody right now, and we talked about doing advertisement or something.
Yeah.
We need to advertise ourselves. Like, we need you to go onto our website and share these episodes with people, like all of our crap, like our Facebook and Instagram, and follow us on Twitter and do all that garbage.
You'll find some more Lego pictures on our Instagram, and maybe even more Pokemon pictures.
But, like, seriously, like, if you feel like you can resonate with what we're doing here, we don't want any money or anything. We just want you to share it with people. And we're going to start up a YouTube channel too. We've already started it, but subscribe to us. If YouTube is your thing, like, subscribe to us on there. And it'll be really cool, and all your wildest dreams will come true.
I mean, if you do feel led by the Lord to give us money, we would really, I mean, one of our goals is to make this a self-sustaining podcast, because a lot of people don't know that you just can't record your voice and throw it up on the internet. There's some website costs, and there's some SoundCloud space that we have to buy. Jason and I would really like to keep this thing going for as long as God would have us keep it going.
Yeah, and I think the operation per year, I mean, it comes in a little under, $15,000 is what it costs for us to run this thing, like, right? So I mean, that's kind of our target, If God has put it on your heart.
I would like to get health benefits from this gig. I'd like a 401k from Not Your Pastor's podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be sweet.
But anyway.
No high aspirations or anything.
No, not at all. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to us. We went a little long. We'll try and make them shorter next time. We love you guys. Praying for you. Any final thoughts, Jason?
No, not today.
Wow, what a bummer.
I can say though, like, it's nightfall here at this creepy old church building that our church is super generous in letting us use until they listen to this episode and say that we can't like record our podcast here anymore. But if you check our Instagram, every time we're here, I'm gonna take a picture of the graveyard out back because we're like looking for orbs. So maybe
Ghost
like
orbs.
maybe we don't see them, but maybe you see them, and maybe Alex tries to catch one, right?
Yeah, I'll try and catch one with my photon blaster.
I was thinking more like your stupid Pokemon thing.
Hey, there are ghost Pokemon. We've already said that.
Yeah.
They're in here.
All right, that's enough.
All right. Love you guys. See ya.
Bye.
Two, one.
How are we starting this? Is there a clap?
I clapped already. All right, let's start.
Woo!